I'm Sarah Hanson. I'm one of the Pathways place-based coaches with South of Scotland Enterprise, and I've been working for myself for around 10 years. And this video is to help people build their confidence in having conversations with potential clients or suppliers about the business services or products that they offer. I've spent the last 10 years working with over 1,000 people on conversations that they need to have. And what I've found fascinating is we've been taught, most of us, how to read and write, but we're rarely taught how to really listen, how to hear what people say, and then be ready to react and respond based on what we've heard. And this is a skill that I believe can be learnt and mastered by people. I've noticed that a lot of people with a bit of time to prepare know how they're going to kick off a conversation. But what often holds them back is fearing what the other person's going to say in response. So too often they delay going back to somebody, or they tell themselves they'll just craft the perfect email and then cross their fingers that they're going to get the right response. And part of my role as a coach has been to help them prepare what they're going to say, but also how they're going to respond when the other person listens and reacts to the conversation. So to help you have more confidence in broaching any conversation, whether it's with a supplier, a potential client, or a collaborator, I want to share with you some really simple skills or ideas. The first thing is, in response to any ask or any question, typically there are 3 responses. People are either going to say, yes, sure, sounds like a good idea. Sorry, no, that's not going to work for me. Or maybe, the kind of grey area in between. So when I work one-to-one with people, coaching them, that's what I practice with them. What are they going to say in response to those 3 answers? The yes, the good news, the best response that you're hoping for. The sorry, it's a no. How do you come back and react to that? What can you negotiate instead in return? And the grey area in between, the maybe. So when I'm working with people, I ask them to figure out, take a couple of moments, given the experience they've got or the perception that they have of the person, whether they've met them before or not, or whether they've dealt with people like this before, to think about what is it I actually think they're going to say. And typically within a couple of moments, people will be quite candid and say, well, they're probably going to say, I wasn't expecting to pay that, or I'll need to have a chat with somebody about that, words to that effect. So that's my advice to you. If you have a big conversation that you need to have with somebody, perhaps for the first time, or to pick up something that you need to address with them, take a moment or two and think to yourself and even write it down. Realistically, what do I expect they're going to say? That way, you're going to be better equipped to react or respond to that grey area in between. So when I've been coaching some of my Pathways people on particular conversations that they want to have on a new project or a new idea, it might be trying to find a premises to work from, or it might be extending their services to a new area like corporate clients or local employers. We've worked on particular conversations to think, okay, well, what's the outcome that you want? Well, I want them to say yes, they'll give it a go. Great. So if you come to me with your idea and I say to you, Sarah, this sounds great, let's give it a go. How are you going to react to that? Now, too often people will say, oh, well, then I'll maybe go back and tell them what my availability is, or ask them about when they might be able to get into this. And that's where my best advice to you is the phrase I use is cash in the compliment. If somebody says yes, that they're keen to work with you or they're open to the idea, do something with it. It's what you've been hoping to hear. If, on the other hand, they say, look, we're not at that position yet, or no, I'm not going to be able to afford that, or it's not going to work out this time, it's perfectly reasonable to take some time to consider, okay, what might work instead? Often there's something to be able to negotiate. If you're interested and you'd really like to work with this person or to run a pilot or experiment with this extension in that particular way, what are you open to give in order to gain something from that conversation? It might be referrals, it might be use of the rooms, it might be a testimonial, it might be taking photographs or filming this for your social media. But giving some thought into how you might respond to the flat no is another useful exercise before you broach the conversation. And then there's that part in the middle, the maybe. And this is the part where too often our emotions get the better of us because we've had a lot riding on it, and too often we don't hear what these people actually say. You might have had the experience of needing to read the email over a couple of times to actually work out what it is that they want or what they're suggesting instead. So my advice to you is this: take your time. You don't need to respond in the moment. It doesn't need to be a knee-jerk reaction. Where there's the skill of listening to the other person, at the same time there's also the skill of listening to yourself. What is your intuition telling you? Is this going to work for you or not? What was it you were hoping for instead? But given what they've said, what is there in their response around, okay, I was looking for to spend less than that. What can you learn from that? It might be what budget it is that they have in mind. You don't need to agree to that price, but you may want to sleep on it. You may want to go back to them with a counter offer, and it's perfectly fair for you to suggest that. Look, me hearing that, it's less than I can afford at the moment, but let me give it some thought. You can still say, no, this time it's not going to work out, or suggest something else. But again, you're gaining more information from the response that you've got. So 2 things from this conversation on reactions and responses. My first piece of advice is to really listen to the words that other people use. That's a skill in itself, but also listen to yourself. When they say this, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? And how are you going to respond? My other piece of advice is having prepared those outcomes for what you're anticipating they're going to say. Having something ready for the yes, fantastic, let's make it happen. The no, oh, hopefully next time, please come back to me again. And the maybe, the in between. Because in truth, often it's the maybe that people tend to get. There's typically something you can negotiate with in between.